Hello and welcome to another edition of Goalmouth Scramble. I'm Tom Mortlock. You'll not recognise this voice from before, but the other guys have let me have a go, so I'll let them off with that one. And joining me in the studio to talk all things football upcoming this weekend. First of all, Ollie Portlock, how are you doing?
I'm good, Tom. How are you?
Good to see you. In the other room, we're using two studios today. In the other room, we have firstly George Hodgson. Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
And Adam Salisbury, how are you?
I'm extremely well.
Good. Right, shall we get cracking then, gents? Let's start off with the Premier League then coming up this weekend. Any ties, Ollie, that grab your attention first of all?
Well, I'm quite fixated on Manchester United versus Wolverhampton Wanderers.
Let's start there then.
I think it's going to be quite an entertaining tie. I think Wolves have lived up to expectation and have proven they're not just going to be scrapping it for relegation all season. I think United, I think Mourinho predicted it correctly in a pre-season press conference when he said it would take them 3 or 4 games to settle back in and after the World Cup, and he was spot on, and they're now starting to gain momentum. And I think they're looking very lethal up front. They just need to sort out some defensive woes, and I think they'll be right back up there again.
Yeah, George, how impressed have you been with Wolves? Because Ollie raises a good point there. I know they've spent a lot of money since coming up from the Championship, but they've looked more than a side that have just been scrapping for relegation. They've actually gone out and attacked teams.
Yeah, definitely. They've got a clear strategy which served them so well last season, and they've managed to adapt it with a few additions this year in the Premier League, and it's working well for them. I think they've bought really well. Nuno's bought people that fit into that system, a bit like Guardiola does at City, and I think they'll give United a good game. I think the longer it goes on, Wolves will grow more confident, but the worst thing they could do is concede early doors, then the floodgates could open really.
And do we think they'll attack Man United? They've been not afraid to attack teams. Even Man City, they held their own. So I think it'll be unlikely that they'll go there and try and see it out for a 0-0.
Yeah, maybe not in that Cardiff style. I think they've got the talent to attack United, to cause them problems. Maybe from the bench, Traore doesn't tend to start, but he can come on and cause real problems, which I think could be a key player for Wolves on Saturday. I think they'll be a bit more cautious being away from home. Obviously, City was a home game, and I think they'll try and attack teams more at home. But the first half an hour, I think they'll just look to settle in and soak it all up really.
And what about United's start to the season then, Adam? What do we think about how they've gone? It's been a bit of of course, there've been the moaning and groaning that perhaps we're used to from Mourinho, and whether he's justified in doing that this year. But then sort of started to pick up on a very good win in the Champions League this week as well. So maybe that'll kickstart their season.
Yeah, look, I think Mourinho gets a hell of a lot of flack that he doesn't necessarily deserve, in my opinion. I mean, he's had players go out for the World Cup. I mean, Pogba, a vital cog in United. At United, he obviously played the World Cup final, and he's come back and he's just starting to come into his own. Scored twice, obviously midweek. And so yeah, look, the squad, he's just getting into the swing of things. A great win last weekend against one of the season's high flyers in Watford. That was a terrific victory, in my opinion. Always a tough place to go, and no matter what start they've had, so that was a good win. And obviously to follow that up in Europe in the week was great stuff. Look, I expect United to win this game. Quite simply, Wolves have started really nicely. They've bought well, like Joy said. I think he made a good point. They've brought in some terrific players on what was a good squad last year, in my opinion. But I fancy United in this game. I'm going to go 2-0.
Why don't we do score predictions while we're there on that one, George?
I don't think you're far off there. I think the big task for Wolves will be scoring a goal, which I'll go 3-1 Man United.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that as well. I think Wolves will manage to score, so I look forward to seeing that. Finally, Ollie?
Yeah, to be fair, I was thinking on the same terms as George, 3-1 win, Lukaku brace, something like that.
Cool. Just before we move on to another game, what do we think about what United actually have to achieve this year. What does Mourinho have to achieve, more importantly, overall this season? Is top four good enough? Does he have to win a trophy? What do we think?
I think it's always nice to win a trophy, but ultimately there's woes off the field at Old Trafford. I mean, and for me, Mourinho's not been backed as well as he ought to have been. I mean, he got a new contract towards the end of last season, and to be honest, Ed Woodward and the board haven't really backed him in terms of bringing in a central defender, which he so desperately wanted. But winning a trophy would be nice, I think, for United. Have a nice run in the Champions League, and obviously try and push either Manchester City, Liverpool, etc. close, or Chelsea started well. So, and for me to get as close to winning the title as possible, and hopefully pick up a trophy along the way.
Cool. Yeah. George?
Yeah, I don't think a trophy is the be all and end all. Obviously, Liverpool and Tottenham have not won anything recently, but Liverpool reached a Champions League final, and I'm sure their fans were happy with last season, as Tottenham as well, with the progress they've made in the last couple of seasons. Whereas United have won trophies, and Mourinho's been under scrutiny, not happy with how they're playing. So I think if they see more entertaining football and obviously winning games, winning trophies to go with that, would be a nice addition as well.
But I think that's the thing. If United do get top four and they continue playing the way that they are at the moment, the style of football that they're playing, I think there'll be quite a lot of United fans who wouldn't necessarily be happy with that. And even now we've probably got United fans who don't really want Mourinho to be there anymore because of the negativity both in the style of play and we're seeing off the pitch.
Yeah, we shouldn't forget though that Man United supporters turned against Alex Ferguson a hell of a lot, and look, the away support, we saw 9 minutes of intense chanting from Manchester United supporters chanting Jose Mourinho's name. So for me, Jose Mourinho has the 100% support from all of those on the stands at Old Trafford. Well, the majority anyway. Look, if that style of football brings results, you won't find too many football fans complaining.
Fair enough. George, what do we think in terms of a game that you're looking forward to this weekend?
Not a particular game I'm looking forward to. A game I think is a big game for Tottenham, who are at Brighton. They've lost the last 3 games. Pochettino under a bit of pressure. Obviously, all their fans want this season is a trophy. What do you think about that one?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Really. It's so weird to see Tottenham sitting in 6th at the moment, but after that a bit of a catastrophe in the last few minutes at Inter Milan in the week, it's almost like one of those games where I know must win is overused a lot in football, but you think that they really do need something to boost the confidence. There's of course that negativity off the pitch as well for them, with Pochettino getting a bit annoyed and calling some comments disrespectful after he left Trippier and Alderweireld at home for that game. So I think just to get everything back on the rails, they really do need a win. Brighton is never actually never an easy place to go.
No.
But I think I fancy Tottenham to do it and sneak it 2-1, something like that. But they really do need that win to get back on the board.
Ollie, if Tottenham are to challenge at the top, is this the sort of game they really need to go and win? Obviously lost at Watford. Obviously Watford have had a good start, but that's not the sort of game you can be affording to lose, is it?
For sure. I think Brighton, like Tom said, isn't an easy place to go, but I think Tottenham, with the sort of squad they've got and their ambitions that they hold, they've got to push forward and win these kind of banana peel sort of games. I think they will win. I think they'll bounce back. I think Poch will have them back in order. I think it's showing as well how big a miss Lloris is. I think he does a fantastic job of organising the defence, and he brings a bit of a calming presence in between the sticks. And I think they've missed that whilst he has been away. But I don't think he's too far off a recovery, and like Tom said, with Alderweireld and Trippier being left at home, I think they'll be back in, and hopefully for Tottenham fans, a win on the board, 3 points.
So I think as long as Tottenham are absolutely exhausted still from that World Cup, I think they ought to go on and win the game. However, look, yeah, Brighton is a tough place to go, like you've all said, but I think Tottenham in recent years have done really well at negating sort of tough places to go. I mean, they tend to go to places and put on a real good show last season. So, look, if they're at 100% fitness, then they will win for me.
Right, score predictions. I've said 2-1 to Spurs. What do we all reckon?
Probably going to go for a 1-0 win, Spurs.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
One apiece.
No, one apiece. There we are. Cool. Right, Adam, your turn to suggest a game that you're either looking forward to or think is an interesting one this weekend.
Well, I suppose it is interesting. My game, so to speak. It's Cardiff against Manchester City. We saw Cardiff get brushed aside last year in the FA Cup against Manchester City, but it's quite an interesting one this week. Manchester City went down at home to Olympique Lyonnais in the Champions League, so it's all about how will they bounce back in the Premier League. Obviously, they're not in familiar waters either at the moment. They aren't at the head of affairs in the Premier League, as Liverpool are. They're third place, but apologies, Chelsea are, of course, top of the league by a goal over Liverpool. But yeah, anyway, Cardiff, I'd expect them to be in trouble this week and just collected the 2 points in 5 games, so can't really see them picking up anything. Anyone got any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, well, I can't see anything other than a routine Man City win, to be honest. I think, yes, it was obviously a blip in midweek. Leon put on a very good performance. I think we've got to give credit to them for that. But I can't see anything other than a Man City win. And I know you occasionally get these freak results, but the way they brushed aside pretty much everyone last year. And look, we'll talk about Cardiff in a minute for what they might achieve this season long term. But I can't really see anything other than them going down and really struggling. So on that basis, I think it'll be a pretty comfortable Man City win, and they'll be back on the way and back on the rails and back on the road to being that successful team that we all know that they can be.
Yeah. Ollie, how would you go about trying to get a result against Manchester City if you're Neil Warnock?
Oh, it's a tough one.
Well, we all know how he's going to do it.
It's a good job they're at home. I think they're going to need that home support. I think they've got a set up to counter this tiki-taka style of play, to be fair, and I think Neil Warnock will definitely try and do that with his great British style of football, or anti-football as some may view it. And I think they'll be very physical. I think Carriata returns from illness for the game, and he's a key component in the squad and to execute Warnock's style of play. And ever since he's joined, I've been impressed with him. I don't think he is a player the level of Cardiff, no disrespect, but like Tom said, I can't see anything other than a City win and Cardiff yet again to lose. But you know, I mean, they do pull out some surprises. I guess. I mean, having watched them against Chelsea, I know they eventually lost. Was it 3-1, 4? Yeah, there you go. They did have chances at Stamford Bridge, but they just didn't put them away. Now being at home, home backing, raucous support, and hopefully better organised. Maybe they can get a goal, but I can't see it, to be honest with you. I can't see a win.
Yeah. Last week, Warnock spoke about how he doesn't want to go to Chelsea and sort of not have a shot on target, but it's the way in which you've got to sort of set up against these big teams.
I mean, to be fair to them, they did score against Chelsea.
Well, they scored early.
Yeah.
Potentially a bit too early. If they score sort of after the hour mark and it's still 0-0 and Cardiff take the lead, then it's a different ball game. But ultimately, Chelsea were able to be more free flowing and obviously put them to the sword. But for me, I'd love to see Cardiff be aggressive. I'd love to see them go and attack City, go and kick City, be horrible and dirty, because that's the only way that they're going to get any sort of result.
Yeah, they have to disrupt the game, don't they?
Of course they do, yeah. Time waste for as long as possible. Try and take as many Manchester City casualties with them as possible. Score predictions then. I'm going to go 3-0 City.
Yeah, 3-0 City for me as well. But Man City, we should specify for any Cardiff fans.
3-0 away win.
3-0 away.
Yeah, I've gone 3-0 as well.
Yeah, hard to argue with that. Maybe 4.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go 4 as well.
The game I'd like to raise, if we're moving on, is Burnley-Bournemouth, actually. I think the reason I think it's an interesting one, obviously, mainly focusing on Burnley, because last year they had that terrific season, of course, got into the Europa League, which they're now not in, and could have probably caused a distraction for them, because I don't think they necessarily had the squad to operate in that extra competition this year. But currently sitting bottom of the league at this early stage with only a point. They haven't. I think the worrying thing for Burnley is they haven't looked anywhere as near as difficult to beat. Last year, when they weren't necessarily, if they weren't scoring a goal or whatever, you just knew that they were going to get that clean sheet, or they weren't going to have to score many in order to win, because they had such a solid defensive record. I think even though at this early stage we've seen that that's not necessarily the case this year. It's difficult to sort of explain why. Maybe it was just a bit of a freak season last year. But at home against Bournemouth, who are high-flying at this early stage in 5th with 10 points from 5 games, it's going to be a difficult game for Burnley, and one that they really need to try and get something from to get back to those ways. But with Bournemouth's excellent start, I don't necessarily see that being the case, whereas I probably would have done last year if Bournemouth had gone to Burnley. I'd see Burnley getting a chance of a result last year.
Yeah, I completely agree. Look, I think the right man's in charge at the football club. I think he's done a wonderful job, and I don't think he'll have too much trouble in motivating his players because of where he's got them to. But yeah, I suppose the striking options are becoming slightly exposed this season. But like you said, that's only because they're conceding more goals. Is that to do with the defence's lack of confidence in the keeper? I don't think so. I think Joe Hart has had a relatively decent start to the season, especially against Wolves. I think Wolves had 30 attempts on goal, and Joe Hart only leaked 1. So that's a terrific effort from Hart. But ultimately, he has conceded plenty of goals. Conceded 4 at Fulham, 3 at home to Watford. So yeah, they're all leaking goals, and that exposes the forward line, unfortunately. But for me, I think they might just get a result this weekend.
I tend to agree. I think it's a dangerous game playing against Bournemouth, because this season they look like they've got a real an extra attacking edge about them, prowess. They seem lethal in front of goal, especially at home. They're never out of a game, that's for sure. And I think Burnley, I don't think the Europa League distraction helped at all, but they've got Stephen Defoe and Robbie Brady back, both 2 key players that are close to returning. Whether they'll play on Saturdays isn't quite sure, but home support. I mean, going to Turf Moor, it's not a nice place in my opinion, but it's a tough place to go again, and
a horrible place.
Yeah, and Bournemouth being away, I mean, they play ever so well at home, but it's tougher on the road for them. And to be fair, I do think Dyche will galvanise the team, and I think I don't know whether they'll get 3 points, but I think they will get some sort of result on Saturday.
It's two very different teams in terms of style, and I think it'll be about which style comes off the best. If Bournemouth get an early goal, then Burnley have got to come out a bit, which they've struggled to do when they have fell behind in recent games. They've not been able to go and get that goal and pull a game back. When they were conceding those goals in the league, it tended to be after they've been having a Europa League game. So they've sort of sorted that out recently. They're only losing by the odd goal, a couple of 0-0s. I think if there's going to be a game for Burnley to get back on track, it does have to be this game. They've got Cardiff away after that in the league, so it's a good chance for them to sort themselves out. Prided themselves last year on keeping teams out and nicking goals, winning by the odd goal. So they just need to get back to what served them so well last season, and perhaps they have been sussed out a bit, but I'm sure they'll turn it around.
There's been a lot of discussion, hasn't there, about whether perhaps Burnley didn't do enough in the transfer market. Is that something that they're now coming back to regret and will do over the course of the season, do we think?
I think they bought kind of strangely. Matej Vidra, I'm not sure what the thinking was behind that. They signed, obviously, Wells, who's gone to QPR, and to me, those two aren't too different at all. I'm not sure where Vidra fits into things for Burnley. I don't know if he's the right sort of player. He's a different sort of player, but
to be fair to Vidra, he had a terrific year last year at Derby, so for me he deserves his chance
Oh, he deserves his
to
chance.
dine at the
So,
top table. No, I think he's probably Daichi's sort of player, actually.
Really?
Yeah. I don't see why not.
I've got to say I disagree with that, but
Don't care.
no, I don't know.
He's been in the Premier League before, hasn't he? He's never really
Watford.
hit the heights. Yeah. And he's done it. Maybe he's just pecking it.
I don't know. I view it as an odd signing, and I don't know. I mean, I don't mind the signing of Ben Gibson. Adds a bit of steel to the defence and another option, but Vidra is just a bit of a. How much was it? 15?
11.
Oh, sorry, 11. Yeah. I don't know. I'm very much unsure on that, and I agree. I definitely think, especially with Europa League, the extra money they got for just competing in that, I thought they would have probably gone out and made extra efforts to sign. I don't know, maybe a fullback or a wide man with Robbie Brady out.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got Goodmunson, haven't they? Who's a fantastic player. Yeah. But again, half of these players have been playing at the World Cup, and they'll still be suffering a hangover from that in terms of fitness, and it'll take them a bit to regain club fitness and get back to the best. So I think Burnley are suffering as a team as well because of that.
Right, score predictions then for this one before I run through the other fixtures that are going on this weekend.
I'm going to go for 1-1.
1-1 draw. You guys?
1-0 home win.
Yeah, 1-0 home win or 0-0.
I'm going to go. I'll go 1-0 Bournemouth. There we go. Range of
variety.
Range of score predictions for that one. I'll just run through the other Premier League fixtures we got this weekend. Then Fulham Watford is the early game on Saturday, 12:30 kickoff. Yeah, it should be. Well, I'm hoping so. Yeah, obviously Watford have had a great start, and Fulham's style of football, even though they're 15th in the league at the moment. Yeah, but their style is something that hopefully will be more prevalent as they go on through the season, because that's been good to watch so far. Crystal Palace, Newcastle, Leicester, Huddersfield, Liverpool, Southampton are all 3 o'clock kickoffs. And then moving into Sunday, the games we haven't mentioned, West Ham, Chelsea in a London derby, although there seem to be about 15 million of those these days. That's at 1:30, and then at 4 it's Arsenal, Everton to round that up. Shall we move into the Championship then, guys? And and talk about the brilliant seasons that our teams Preston and Ipswich have had at the start of this season. Yes, Ipswich are bottom, but I'll let you Preston fans talk about their start to the season so far, and then look ahead to this weekend's game as well.
Take it away, Adam.
Basically, North End at the moment are pretty hopeless, unfortunately. There's no steel at the back that there was last season. It's as if the cracks have merely been papered over since the start of last year. There were huge worries at the start of last year that our defence wasn't up to it and we'd leak a lot of goals. It turned out to be an absolute revelation last year. Unfortunately, this season, those cracks have started to emerge again, and there's a lot of debate: is that due to the goalkeeper situation or not? Potentially, but ultimately something has to give at North End at the moment. We can't defend. We're struggling to sort of break teams down as well. A completely different team without Paul Gallagher, and we're having too many suspensions. Hence why we're 23rd in the league. However, I've got every confidence that he'll turn around and win our top half finish.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think the difference I've seen between this year and last year is that every player would put their body on the line, defence, midfield and attack. And I remember against Bolton, there were 2 shots from edge of the box or just outside the box. Last year, those shots would have been blocked because you would have had Pearson, a Davis, a Huntington, whoever, putting the body on the line, and they'd get to that first, they'd win those 50-50 battles. This year, it doesn't seem as though... I don't know, they're not first to the ball. There's no real shape at times. I think we lose our shape and organisation a hell of a lot, which comes from the manager, but comes from the captain as well, Clark. And I think the yard of pace that Clark and Huntington have lost have severely been detrimental to them. I mean, they were slow enough already, and now it's painful to watch.
It's an odd one for me because Clark. Last year we were out at our best with Davies and Huntington playing together as a partnership. But we started this year with Clark and Davies, and for me, we've had the best out of Tom Clark. He's been a terrific servant for the football club, but ultimately, is he good enough for Championship football nowadays? And for me,
Top end Championship.
Well, even Championship level, I don't think he's good enough as a whole. But look, we need Paul Huntington and Ben Davies to start, surely, or give Jordan Story a start, who's been absolutely magnificent every time he's come into the side. And for him not to get a sniff is a bit bizarre. So I think there could potentially be some changes this weekend. I know the goalkeeper could potentially change. I know Story could potentially be considered, but I don't think he will get a start. I'd like to see Johnson in the 10. I think he's a good player with Gallagher and Brown in behind, but Neil rates Brown as a number 10. I also rate Brown as a number 10, but away from home.
What about Ledson?
Ledson's
back.
Ledson, you'd imagine, will come back in.
Yeah.
But I'd be highly surprised if he did.
So it's Sheffield United away for you guys at the weekend. They're currently in 6th, and Bramwell Lane is never an easy place to go. I feel like I've said that a lot of times about a lot of teams so far today. But there's a real element of that'll be a difficult place to get a result. And Adam, you were saying the other day that Preston don't have a brilliant record there.
No, our record's relatively poor there. I think we won in 2013 for the first time in 35 years or something at Bramwell Lane. Crikey. But to be fair, in recent years, we haven't had too bad a record there. I know our season turned around in 2015 with an FA Cup win there. And also we won there last season. So look, hopefully the players have confidence from that victory that they can take into this weekend. Because all is not doom and gloom at North End, contrary to what a lot of supporters will put on Twitter. I think North End will be just fine. And I think we'll get a result on Saturday. The optimism
Need to
within
score first.
Yeah, preferably, of course, but hopefully not too early.
Not first in the game. We've not scored an away goal yet.
Yeah. Look, we ideally we'd take the lead after about 75, 80 minutes and go on and win the game comfortably.
So what are we thinking score predictions wise for you guys then? Do you think we've heard from Adam. We think you'll get a result. What about you, Ollie and George?
I think it'll be a 1-1 draw, to be honest with you. I think Daniel Johnson will score. I'm feeling it in my bones, but I'm hoping we'll get a result. I am a little bit optimistic. I'm just wary as well.
We just need to get back to what served us so well on the road last season, which was the ability to keep teams out, frustrate teams, and then when we get the ball, harm them at the other end of the pitch on the counter attack, which just hasn't happened this season. We look leaky, so if we can get back to basics, I'm not sure how it's going to happen. Some consistency in the starting lineup would help. Too many chops and changes in the 11, especially when individuals seem to have a good game and then they're not in the next game. So I think it's a tough game. Sheffield United have started well as they did last season. But it's certainly a game Preston can get back on track with. I'll go 1-1.
To be fair, I'd argue that all of us would just like a performance. I mean, even if the result doesn't come, but we can take positives out of the performance, I'd be sort of content with that. However, I'm going to go 2-1 North End. 1-0 Preston after 20. 1 apiece by half-time. 2-1 late.
You heard it here first. Just a quick word then on the only team who are below Preston in the Championship table at the moment, and that's Ipswich Town. That's my team. It's obviously not been great since Mick McCarthy left last year and Paul Hurst took over the former Shrewsbury boss. But I say it's not been great. We haven't won a game in the first 8. But I think the fan base at Ipswich would generally agree that McCarthy probably had to go, not necessarily because of the league position, as some people looking in might think, but more to do with the fact that there was a growing animosity between him and the fans, and the increasingly boring and negative football that was on display. And that was ultimately driving fans away. So in order to try and reinvigorate the club a bit more, I think it was the right decision to bring Paul Hurst in. I've been impressed with him in what he's said off the pitch, the way he wants to try and go about things. But it's obviously not materialised and translated into results quite yet. that's a lot to do with the fact that we've sold the key players such as Waghorn, he's gone to Derby, and we've bought lower league players in. But there have been signs that there's something breaking through and that it eventually will click. The second half performance against Brentford in a 1-1 draw on Tuesday night was very encouraging, even though the first half was absolutely woeful. And particularly in the home games, all 4 of which have ended in draws against the likes of Villa, and then 1-1 in the East Anglian derby against Norwich as well. There have been signs of better things to come. So I'm certainly not all doom and gloom, and we're definitely going to be relegated quite yet. But we really do need that first win to get on the board and try and build some momentum. We've got Bolton at home this weekend, which I'm actually feeling quite happy about. I'm feeling quite optimistic about it. They've obviously started the season well, but on a bit of a downturn now. Lost to Middlesbrough in midweek. But I'm feeling that if we can replicate that performance in the second half against Brentford, then there's no reason why we can't go and beat Bolton. I don't think it'll be particularly pretty, and I don't think it'll be necessarily that comfortable. But just to get over that line in any way, shape, or form will give us a bit of momentum, and hopefully we can build from there and get a few more wins on the table.
And that's the main thing.
Well, that is the main thing, of course.
Who have you been most impressed with out of your signings?
I'd probably say Toto Enciala, who's a centre-back from Shrewsbury. He hasn't had a lot of game time because he got sent off at Sheffield Wednesday, but that was not sending off in a million years. So so I'm not going to blame him for that one. He's looked solid when he's played. Up front, Caden Jackson from Accrington got his first goal on Tuesday night. And it hasn't quite worked for him yet, but he's certainly got pace and has got a little bit about him. Ellis Harrison, not so much from Bristol Rovers. He's not necessarily made the step up yet. No. John Nolan in midfield, also from Shrewsbury, has again got a bit about him, but has got a bit lost in games. So there hasn't necessarily been a player that you think, wow, they've had an amazing start, and that's probably reflected in the fact that we haven't won yet. But there's quite a few players who've got signs of something there. They just haven't broken through with it yet, or haven't made it consistently enough yet. Trevor Chalobah on loan from Chelsea is another one who's clearly got potential and that quality in him, but it hasn't quite shown yet.
So where, by the end of the season, would you be happy with, considering your position now?
More than happy with, I think 14th, 15th, but playing a bit better football. And I think most Ipswich fans would tell you that realistically, with the budget we have, we haven't really got a chance to get in the playoffs anymore. No. And because of that, if we're not going to go down, which hopefully we won't, we might as well be sitting in the mid-table playing a bit better football and exciting a few more fans. So, I would happily take, at the moment, a mid-table finish, but playing a bit more exciting football and feeling like there's a start of a project that can build, because we've had, 17 years in the Championship consecutively. As much as we don't want to leave it in the wrong end, we want to see a bit more sign of progress, and it had been steadily declining, and so the attitude between the fans and McCarthy at the end of it, and that's ultimately why he probably had to leave for the best interest of both parties, really.
So, I wouldn't write. Apologies, Ollie, but I won't write off any chance of playoffs for Ipswich, because ultimately we came 7th last season on a relatively similar budget, and you'd have broken our transfer record if you were us on Caden Jackson. Look, no, don't write anything off. Because I think anything is doable in the Championship. Anyone can beat each other, and anybody can come wherever they deserve.
So in total, what do we reckon for Bolton then, score predictions wise?
I reckon I think we might edge it 1-0. No, actually, I'm going to correct that because we've been rubbish actually keeping clean sheets. No, it's going to be a tight game. I think 2-1. We're going to just about get over the line, but we really need to. There will be real concerns if we don't beat Bolton, and that's no disrespect to them, but it's the sort of game that if those signs can turn into something a bit more concrete in terms of points, that's really the sort of game we need to be winning at home.
Yeah, I think I'd go for a 1-1 myself, but I agree. I think you definitely need a result from that game.
3-0 Ipswich.
Yeah, I think Ipswich will win this. I wasn't too impressed with Bolton when I saw them. Just reading here, they've lost the last 5 visits to Ipswich. I think it's a game. It's a game Ipswich will win. I think they'll win it confidently. Bolton are in a bit of a sticky patch of form at the minute. 2-0 Ipswich.
Lovely. Anything else in the football world that any of you guys want to mention before I wrap this up? No?
Cheers.
I'll wrap this up then. Thanks very much for listening to Goalmouth Scramble this week. Join us again at some time in the future, probably next week. But from all of us here, until then, it's goodbye.
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 Goodbye.